Modern JavaScript or ECMAScript 6 comes with a lot of new way of writing code. And in Node, in React, we need those new features quite often. So let's explore some of them and then understand some of the basics of this new ECMAScript 6, which got introduced in 2015. So let me go to my Node application. And then in this, let me try to declare a variable called var I equals to 10 console.log I, and then it'll print the 10. So if we just run this application like node, you say node ES6, and it prints 10. That's absolutely fine. If you, let's say, change it here to 12, the value will be 12 because you can change that var. That's absolutely fine. That's what we have been doing since many years. Okay, that's how JavaScript looks like. Even 10 years, 15 years back, JavaScript was like that. Okay, so let's now see what is the problem here. So if I assume that we use the var keyword and I have a function called myfunc, and then in that function, I have a loop called for var I equals to 0, I less than 5, I plus plus. If I have something like that, and then if I try to put a log and then say I, this should give me an output of 0 to 5. So let's see that output. If I run that, it won't show unless I call. So let me call this myfunc, and then if I run it, it will show me the list of values. Now you can see that this is fine till now. What if I have something after this for, and I try to, let's say, print the value of I after I'm done with the for loop. So what will happen, just to differentiate that it is printing the value of I after the for loop is done with, so I put a dash separator and I run this, and you see that the new value of I is 5 because now I got increased to 5 and came out of the for loop because the condition said that it should be less than 5. The last value of I is the 5 value, and then you can see it. This is a problem because now I is accessible outside of the for loop. That's not the intention of my code. My intention of my code is to restrict this I only within this loop. Now if I have this keyword let instead of var, now it will give me an error because I'm trying to access this value I. So I'll hide this code and I try to run it again. It shows me only 0 to 4, and if you see here that it is not recognizable, so it is saying it's undefined. The I is not defined, hence I'm unable to read that in the console.log or use it outside of the for loop. So imagine that you have a local context where you need to change the value of the variable. Instead of using var, you will be using let. Now let's come to another kind of variable declaration style, a const. So most of the time when you take a reference, you will be using this keyword. So const, if I say const I equals to 10 and then say log I, and this will be exactly the same way if you declare a variable like var I, let I, the same thing, right? It will print you the variable 10. What you can't really do is that you can't really change the value to something else, okay, within the scope. This is read-only, this is constant. Hence you can see that assignment to a constant variable is a problem. So it will not allow you to assign. So if you are setting something and you are setting it like writing it in a stone, will never change it in a program. It's a better way to handle that, and it will prevent you to change. That's also another additional thing. You don't need to put any condition like, hey, this is something I will not change, etc., etc. So this is what will make your life much easier. Now we'll talk about another aspect of it, that is object. So in ES6 we have something called object. The object is, you can think of like I declare something like const employee, and then I declare this object, and I say name of the employee is this, and can do coding, sort of like a function. Now the way to declare a function, you can say that can do coding, and I say function, and I put this, and I put over here, and then say console.log, and I say programmer. Okay, something like this. This is not the right way to declare a function, but you think of it like I have a function which tells me something after doing a lot of calculation, multi-line thing. It's not just simple value assignment. I could easily do it using a property, but imagine that I have a function. Now if I need to run this, okay, so I say run it, and I run the same thing. I need to call this function to get the output. So how to call it? So I can say employee dot can do coding. So I can call a function like this. So you can do this and you get the output, right? So you can even call it like a member, because it is now a member of this object. So let's see how that looks like. If I type this and put this colon, you can see both the thing, like even can do is looking like a function property, even if it is a function. Name definitely is, can do is also another property, right? You can see that both of them are considered as property, and to write it in a different way, you can actually do this thing. Okay, that's also means the same. So you will get the same output if you write a function like I have changed it to just name value assignment to something else. So if I say programmer2, I run it again just to see it's reflecting. It is reflecting. That means I am able to now have that same function as a variable, right? You can also assign a function, right, to a variable. So I can say const func equals to, okay, if I do that and I say log, I'll just call it a func. Now what happens if I call it a func? You can see that it is showing you programmer2. So I put it in a variable, I call this variable, and it stores the value of the execution. Now if you want to just do a lot of, let's say, reference into the object of this and then do something like that, you will be using a different approach, like passing on the this as its construct. So if you do something like, let's say, this, and you run this and you print the value of this here, and let's see what it gives. And you can see that there is a problem. Now the coding, this, not here, sorry. So I call this and then I display this function. Let me run it. And you can see that it gives me the whole object, right? It gives me the value name and the can do coding. Now what is not possible if I, let's say, send something like this and try to execute as a function. I'll show you the difference. Okay, if you try to run this, you can see that there is a problem. And the problem says, let me clear it up. Okay, and then if I run it again, you see here, it says, so let me increase the size, the output go up. You can say that this second, this is the execution, and reference is not available. something terribly wrong over here, because now it is unable to find this object, right? Now, in this kind of scenario, you have an option to bind this, right? So you can say dot bind, and then you add that class. But we will come to this keyword thing a little later. But imagine that if you have to refer the same class or the same object within that object, you need to bind it. And we will discuss about the binding of this, which is a common issue in ES6. And you will find in a lot of areas where people have used the keyword called bind, and what to do in that context. So we'll see that in our next demo.